Hey everybody, welcome back to another live stream. Gonna sit and watch the closing stream with you. Market close. Take this sound out of my ear. Hear myself. It's awkward, but I need to know when you can hear the stream. Monitoring fun. Right, so let's have a look at the markets. Let's go have a look at. Let's come off that for a sec. And if we switch over, let's have a look at the 10-year Treasury. So we're sat at 0.215, up slightly on the day. You can see that we're starting to gradually trend down now. If we just take that trend there, if it lets me. Yep. Man, it won't let me draw. Somebody just wants to draw lines. You won't let him draw lines. What's the issue with that? Well, you can see it anyway. It's trending down. Take my word for it. Which is good. Let's move over to the stock. So we've got 15 minutes before the market close. Let's see how the day fared. If you remember at the start of the day, Etsy was getting a hammering, weren't they? Roku took a hammering as well. Lemonade seems to just want to go after all my stocks. Let's have a look. Who else? Let's see what we have here. Hood got a beating. I'm going to post a little video on what happened to Hood. Make sure you go check that out, because I kind of preempted it. We posted the video earlier today, and it was when it was set up at 85 and closed at 70. Everyone's all happy on their double, but it's dropped down 26% today, and there's a reason for it. They're allowing the shares to be sold. Okay, so the lockup's over. So be aware if you're in Robinhood right now. That is an unprecedented move. So check out that video. I think you'll find it useful if you're invested in Robinhood. Lemonade, yeah, couldn't recover through that day. Looks like they're going to close at 12%. Hopefully they don't get any more damage in the after hours. Etsy, yeah, it's about 11%, wasn't it, when we were checking this morning? Fall back 2% during the day. But overall, not great for them. AMD down. Enphase 5% down. But they've been doing well over the time, so they've done well for me. Enphase, I think my average on Enphase was around 135-ish. I think it was off the top of my head. So been pretty good on Enphase. Roku down. We saw that with the earnings. SoFi, Shop, fine. Let's come down. Let's see who did well. Let's see who our movers were today. Astra. What happened with Astra? It was low anyway, so I guess 30% move. Was there any news with Astra? I'll check that out in a minute if there's any news in Astra. AMC, running a little bit. Zoom Info doing well. I believe that was due to good earnings. Car, Matterport, good. Matterport fighting back. There we go. Go on, son. Square doing well, up 6%. Torch 4.2%. Uber 3%. Corsair battling back again. Good. About time. I've got a bit of Corsair. Coinbase going under the radar, slowly building as Robinhood's tumbling. Interesting. We did the valuation. Go check out that video, because we actually break down how SoFi, Coin. We looked at Schwab, we looked at a few of the other ones and how they compare against Robinhood, and if you're getting good value for your money. Let's switch over to Biden. Let's see what Biden's saying. Biden's up on television. Let's see what Biden has to say.
And it's never, ever, ever been a good bet to bet against America. We are the United States of America. There's not a single solitary thing, nothing, beyond our capacity to get done when we do it together. We have to act, and that's what we're doing today. And again, I want to thank the CEOs of the auto.
This was so weird. So he's doing this EO for electric vehicles, but he didn't invite Elon Musk. That's a kick in the teeth. And it shows how the unions play games. Go check out Elon Musk's tweet. He never got invited.
This and others who know they're supposed to come on up. Thank you all very much.
The president wrapping up his remarks there, about to sign the executive order, saying the future of autos is electric and there's no turning back. The question is whether the US will lead or follow. Said that we, the US, are in competition with China and other nations for the 21st century as a whole, and need things to be made in America. Also said there, Phil LeBeau, who joins us for reaction, that he wants to be the first person to drive the first all-electric Corvette, and how much he enjoyed driving the electric F-150.
You know, Wilf, I hate to pour cold water on the President of the United States just minutes after he was speaking, but this ambition of 50% of the vehicles sold in this country being electric by 2030, I am skeptical that we're going to get there, and I'm not alone in that skepticism. Most in the auto industry will tell you that it's more likely we will get to 30, 35%, maybe 40% if all things come together, but there are just so many hurdles that need to be overcome, and I'll leave you with this one statistic. Last year, just under 300,000 vehicles sold in this country were electric. That was 2% of all vehicles. 2%. Even with the big three investing $99 billion over the next 4 years in EV development, most believe that we're only going to get up to 1 million vehicles being electric by 2020.
Very interesting. And we did see that with GM. They said 30% by 2030. So it's a bit more realistic.
But not by 2030.
Some low numbers there, Phil. Thank you. Phil LeBeau. And coming up on this topic, the CEO of EV maker Fisker on how this new executive order could impact his business and getting more EVs on the road. Let's talk about earnings, though. We've got another earnings mover before the bell. Animal health company Zoetis out with results this morning, posting a beat on the top and...
Stay tuned, by the way, guys. We're going to do the earnings, so we'll go have a look at who's posting earnings. I don't want to hear myself every time.
Heck, great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to actually be here in studio finally.
Agree. So let's talk about your results. There was some concern going in that the whole pet adoption craze that happened during the pandemic would peter out and people wouldn't be so focused at home and spending on their pets. Is that just not what you're seeing?
No, I think if you look at our results for the quarter, we had 22% top line growth. But if you look at the companion animal business,
if any of you know a good pair of monitoring headphones, let me know.
are millennials and Gen Z, and they tend to spend more on those pets. So we really think that these trends you're seeing in companion animal are really durable and will be sustainable in the years to come.
So people spend as much on their pets, say, a few years after they buy them versus right up front?
Honestly, they generally tend to spend more as the pets get older. Pets, similar to humans, probably have more health issues as they age. So we really see this as a very sustainable trend over time.
I wanted to ask a question about vaccines.
Right, let's leave them here. Let's head back over. Let's see who's reporting earnings today. Let's have a look. So, after market close, let's have a look who we've got. Let's sort this by popularity so we can see our favorites. That's what we want. Moderna. Okay, so their earnings per share estimates coming in at $6, what the market is expecting. So we'll be wanting a beat on that. We'll be expecting one. So, what did they... Oh, sorry, they reported already. Moderna. Yeah, that was before market. Okay, aftermarket. Who do we have? So we have aftermarket. I was pretty sure we had Wayfair, Fiverr. Where are they all at? Let's check. Yeah, that sort just messes it up. Oh, Wayfair, Fiverr, they all reported. Who have we got aftermarket? Rock, Quartz, Stonebridge, GoGo. Okay, so we've not got many good earnings to look at, to be honest. Bit of a boring earnings session. So, yep, not interested in any of these. Nope, not in any of these plays. Yeah, they leave the boring ones for a Thursday evening, and I don't think they do any aftermarket on Friday. Right, so let's go back to let's look at the sticks again. Let's have a look at what the charts are saying. So, I want to understand what happened with Astra. What's that move on Astra? There's some news. Let's have a look. See if there's any news on Astra. There you go. Announces multi-launch contract and first launch with Department of Defense. Let's take a look. This could be interesting. Okay, so today Astra launched a launch window beginning August 27th for its first commercial orbital launch. Ah, nice. With the United States Space Force. Following this launch, Astra is under contract to perform a second launch later this year. We are thrilled to partner with Astra on this mission and believe this showcases critical low-cost mobile responsive launch capability. Space Force contracted. I have some Astra, by the way, which is why we're looking at this. It's about time they got started with this. We're excited to kick off a multi-launch campaign with the Space Force. So Chris Kemp, who's the founder. This orbital demonstration launch allows our team to verify numerous upgrades to our launch system. Okay, look forward to it. Chris, good to see the stock moving, but still sat at 10, which is about the isn't that the nominal value of the SPAC? Fine. Closing bell in 10 minutes, or well, 7-8 minutes. Until then, we've got Redfin flat on the day. Any other big movers here? Square up 15 points. Who else were the big movers? Interesting to see Apple flat. It's not kind of reacting one way or the other as it tends to do. It's a bit of a behemoth, isn't it? Beyond Meat, relatively flat. Piton flat. I would have thought Piton would benefit a little bit more with some of the fears around the variant. But as you can see, all of these have just taken a... Look at this. Piton would have done well. Zoom would have done well. Shop would have done well during last year. SoFi, Roku, Etsy. These are all the home plays, all the stay-at-home plays that people are not sure now. They're not sure whether to pivot into recovery. They're not sure whether to pivot into the stay-at-home plays. So everyone's just waiting to see which direction we're heading in. And I think we're probably going to find out over the next few days. Let's take a look at the cases again. See if we can see the COVID cases. So again, that's the UK kind of inflecting down, but you can see it's kind of, is that creating a bottom there? Interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Let's see. Let's see the States. Yeah, it's just spiking up, isn't it? If we look at the last week, I'm guessing it's probably a bit, yeah. Okay, that's not as bad. What's the last 30 days saying? Yeah, it's just this is where it's starting to pick up. I mean, 7-day average of 96,000 new cases, and started with a 7-day average of 20,000. That is phenomenal. What about the death rate though? So the idea is if the vaccines are coming through, it should start settling down. So 7-day average 448 with a 7-day average of 188. Yeah, it's moving. What we're hearing from Biden and the team is it's in the regions where they've not been vaccinated, but anecdotally you're hearing a lot of people who are getting it with double vaxxed. But I guess the idea is they're not supposed to get it as badly. Right, let's head back over to see what the old television is saying.
I think, look over the last couple of weeks, we're not necessarily doing pure reopening trades, but what we are doing is looking at some of the value names that have come back a little bit, trimming some of those growth names that have become strong overweights in our portfolio and using those funds to go into some value names. So I do think you stay long this market.
Let's hit Robinhood pulling back today after a massive rally this week. The company disclosing in a regulatory filing that it plans a stock offering of up to 98 million shares. Robinhood says the stock is being sold over time.
Make sure you check out my video on that, the 97 million shares they're allowing to be sold.
1 week. Steph, how do you read this? Do you think it's just similar phenomenon to GameStop and AMC? Say something about the overall market?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think, look, IPOs are very volatile to begin with. I think it's trying to find its footing, but this is not trading on fundamentals, Sarah, by any stretch of the imagination. You either believe in this story and the growth rate, because the growth rate is substantial, 90% user growth from last year, 19 to 20% penetration rate. So if you believe those kind of numbers are sustainable, well, then you're probably a positive on the stock. I'm not sure it is. I mean, I think if you step back, as we reopen, and whenever it is we do reopen, you know, what does that mean for the retail investor? Are we at the peak at this point? That's just my opinion. And at the same time, the valuation's crazy. It's price to sales at 11 times, 140 times earnings. That is at.
Again, check out my other Robinhood video where I go into the valuation and kind of touch upon the same thing that she's saying.
At this point in time, so I'm a no touch, and you guys know I own Morgan Stanley, so I prefer E-Trade at this point.
But I guess even if you believe it, Victoria, is it possible that this is highlighting the way in which many of these stocks have got massively overstretched relative to their valuations? I guess we've seen it quite a few times and it hasn't ever derailed the whole space, but you see a stock down 28% and selling off into the close. Does it ever worry you that it leads to something wider and brings other stocks down with it?
Well, we saw it with the meme stocks previously, right? It started to bring other names in. You know, we started with GameStop. We saw it go into AMC and to others. So I'm not saying this is necessarily a meme stock, but Stephanie's right. When these stocks start to merge away from the fundamentals and they're not trading on fundamentals anymore, I don't want anything to do with those names. So we're not in Robinhood, but I also think some of this has to do with the options trading. Options trading started yesterday. One of our analysts was saying the
exactly what I was saying.
22 minutes to go in the money, which is the fastest that's happened in history. So I think you've got some sellers out there of calls. Perhaps those people are then going in and buying the underlying stock so that it's not an uncovered sell there. Perhaps that's part of what drove the stock price up yesterday. And as we see some of that roll off today, maybe that's why we're down 25 to 30%. But the fundamentals don't really tell us much at this point.
Media stocks rallying after earnings from Viacom, CBS, and also from Fox. Let's get to Julia Boston for all the details. Hi, Julia.
Well, Viacom, CBS, and Fox shares are both up nearly 7%. This after the two companies reported better than expected results. Now, Viacom, CBS total streaming revenues grew 92% in the quarter as the company added a better than expected 6.5 million streaming subscribers, and streaming ad revenue more than doubled. The company also announcing a $900 million deal with the creators of South Park. And Fox revenues surpassed expectations.
Check this out, guys. In my video earlier, we spoke about Bitcoin. The line's still here where I drew this line. I said, we've got to bounce off this line. We've bounced exactly off of that. And look at that rally in Bitcoin today. That's really impressive. Let's take a look at that. It rallied all the way up to 41.4. It was an 11% day trade if you guys fancied that, if you watched the video. And it's coming back to test the ribbon. We're bouncing off that ribbon now, which is looking nice and healthy. And this is exactly what I said. Now, we've really got to push through this 41.6 mark here. So if I zoom out, let's go to the 1 hourly, just to give you a bit of a macro feel. Look at that. There's a great pump there. It's exactly where we drew this green line based on this level here. I used this level here to give us that indication, as well as some of the support there. Bounced nicely off of that, broke through this resistance, the yellow resistance drawn here, and it also broke through the next resistance at 39,000, straight through the 40 mark. And then we look like we're getting a bit of a rejection here, but on the hourly, can we get the momentum to push up to the 41,615? Very important level. Like exactly what I said here. The more number of times you push against this resistance, you're going to head back. You're going to break it. So we tested it here, fake out, came back in, got the energy back at the support there, and broke through the resistance. And now we're going to head up to this level here. Let's see how we fare there. Or the way I've circled it here from this morning, we can come back for a retest and then go again. So good sign there from Bitcoin, sitting at 40,800. So nice and healthy. Not much to complain about given we were at the 29 mark just a little while ago down there. Look at that. Feels like a long time ago that we were in the 30s. So that is Bitcoin. Let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum's looking nice and healthy. The London fork went ahead nice and smoothly. Again, posted a video on the London hard fork and what that means. Go check it out so you're informed, especially if you have any Ethereum. But it's also important to know just generally. It's a really big step, and hopefully Ethereum can go ahead and get Ether 2.0 done. Get Ethereum 2.0 done, move over to their proof of stake model, and then really push on, because Ethereum's not going anywhere. And the separate conversation is Ethereum going to manage to flip? Oh, here we go. Let's switch over to Beyond Meat.
just closing to its session highs moments ago, and it is sitting, just a couple of points above where it needs to be for a record close. It's up about half of
so Beyond Me,
1%. The Dow is up.
Beyond Me will be sharing earnings after the close. I was right. We need to be waiting for that. I'll stay on for that.
Nasdaq looking pretty comfortable, up 0.75% itself, and is also just about set for a record close. Energy, financials, the top two performing sectors, those two both up more than 1% today. Materials and healthcare at the bottom of the pile.
So there we have it, guys. The Dow up 0.77. We had the S&P 0.6, Nasdaq 0.77, and the Russell at 1.8 up. Green day today, apart from Robinhood, down 27.5.
It's session high, but not a record close. It's up, all three up healthily more than 0.6%.
Strong finish to the day with a double record close. Welcome back, everyone, to Closing Bell. I'm Sarah Eisen here with Wilfred Frost. The Dow finishing up near the session highs, as Wilfred said, 271 points higher on the day.
Let's carry on looking at Ethereum quickly, and I'll keep an eye for the Beyond Meat. So yeah, Ethereum's just been rallying. I mean, this is the hourly chart. It's the fork went ahead at about 2 p.m. and you can just see it just boom, it went. So from here, when the fork was scheduled, roughly, very roughly speaking, if we traded that move, you would have 15% on a successful London hard fork EIP 1559. So we're a bit overextended there on the EMA ribbon. Wouldn't be surprised if we had a little correction back down, maybe test the ribbon around there, and then before our next tranche back up. That's pretty much what we want to be looking for there on Ethereum. Let's have a look at Cardano. Cardano looking nice and healthy. Oops. Cardano looking nice and healthy. Cannot complain there. Let's take a look. Look at the day chart for Cardano. Get a bit of a macro view. Yeah, Cardano's been steady. Nice and steady. It's bounced off its EMA twice. Let's see if we can get... Yep, so again, still bullish on the daily. We're above the EMA ribbon. I think the next job for Cardano is to go and test this level up here. Really, I mean, we've got this heavy resistance here. That's the next break point here, 152 mark. The 150 to 152 mark, you can draw that line. Put that in there. That red line there is kind of where we need to break through next. So if we look at it, not 5 months, you want to look at 5. You want to look at 5 months. You want to look at 5 minutes, and take a look. There we go. It's had a good day. Nice uptrend, making higher lows, higher highs. Just want to see this high come a little bit higher. It's still a higher high technically there. Just want to see it come a little bit higher before coming back down, and we're in a very healthy uptrend there. Let's switch back over, make sure we don't miss these earnings.
Sector is really on fire. Quality stocks, big cash flow, earning through a decent cyclical upswing. That's what we're seeing in the market right now.
So Alicia, how do you play that? I mean, do you want to buy various cyclical sectors, possibly even including the banks, ahead of the yield curve doing that? Are you expecting the yield curve to rise and steepen?
That's interesting. Expedia beat Res, but an adjusted loss of 1.13 versus 0.6. They lost more, but the revs were beat. So the problem there with the margins, that's not good. Although revenue came in for a travel company, which is interesting. So it may give some good signs for any complementary travel companies operating with better margins.
In this, the U.S. bond market is part of the story. So very hard for yields to move higher, even though it does not accurately reflect what's happening in the real economy. So what would I do?
Dropbox beat revenue 531 versus 524. Very good.
I would add healthcare here. We're mid-cycle. Healthcare should do very well, in addition to tech. And
And they beat, there's a double beat. They beat on the earnings per share as well. Such a great business model, Dropbox. I mean, I've been a member of Dropbox, a subscriber to Dropbox for years. Don't fancy switching in if somebody came with a better service. Such a headache to switch across. So many barriers to entry for a competitor to come and try compete. Once they've got the customer, it's very sticky.
Beneficial for stocks.
Well, Sarah, I mean, when we look at the bond market, everyone tries to see what the story is that the bond market is telling us right now. And I think it's very much a confusing story, like Alicia was talking about. I mean, you have the inflation component that we assume not all of the inflation we're seeing is transitory. And so some of that is permanent, whether it's in regards to wages, to rents, whatever it might be, that's going to continue to bring yields a little bit higher. If so, it's positive for the bond market, for bond investors, I would say, being a bond portfolio manager, because you get a little bit of a higher yield on what you're buying. And as long as the pace isn't extreme, Sarah, then I think you're okay with the growth stocks. They're okay if the 10-year Treasury moves to a 140 or a 150. They probably won't be okay if we see it skyrocket up to a 2%, which I'm not anticipating. But still, the move higher, as long as it is measured, then I think your stock market is going to be okay. We're still at historical lows, and the Fed is not going to pull all that liquidity away. So those are still going to be tailwinds for the equity market.
Oh, we've got Dropbox earnings just out. Excuse me, Josh Lipton with the numbers. Josh.
Sarah, Dropbox report.
Beat you to it already.
Yes, comes in at 40 cents. That's versus expectations of 33 cents. Revenue up 13.5% to $530.6 million in the quarter. That's versus expectations of $524 million.
I need me some Dropbox.
1.2%. Paying users 16.14 million, and annual recurring revenue up 12% to $2.166 billion. We'll get guidance on the call. That starts at 5 p.m. Eastern. Back to you.
Stock is popping. Josh, thank you. Up more than 2%. And Steph has actually been performing quite well in the lead up to this report. What's the story with Dropbox?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's up 42% year to date. You know what? It's still pretty reasonable at 13 times free cash flow. But look, last quarter, they beat in the quarter. They raised guidance. They beat on gross margins, operating margins, billings, and free cash flow. Free cash flow is going to be key because their goal is to get to $1 billion in free cash flow by 2024. So let's.
Beyond Meat down about 6% in the after hours. Still awaiting their earnings.
After not last year. So this is a good story, and I think the valuation is not expensive.
Let's get to Expedia and Tripadvisor numbers, which Christina Partsinevelos has for us. Hey, Christina.
Hi, I'm going to start with Expedia because the results came out mixed. They saw a loss per share of $1.13, which was much worse than what was anticipated. The estimate was supposed to be 65-cent loss. We're also seeing revenues that came in slightly higher at $2.11 billion, so that was higher than the estimate. If I'm going to switch over to Tripadvisor right now and show you those, we're also seeing a loss on their side, 7 cents. So earnings per share, a loss of 7 cents. That wasn't as bad as what the street was expecting at a loss of 11 cents, but revenue came in a lot stronger at $235 million. So it seems for both companies, revenue came in, and that's likely benefiting from the ongoing vaccination drive throughout the world and people booking trips. Back to you.
Christina, thanks so much for that. By the way, don't miss first on CNBC tomorrow, Expedia's CEO will be on Squawk Box. Alicia, I mean, headline indices haven't pulled back because of Delta. Travel stocks have a bit, but perhaps they could have pulled back more. Where do you stand on those sorts of names?
So I'd be buying into the sectors that were hit because of the Delta scare here. I think it's really clear that, you know, worldwide people want to travel and they want to travel for leisure. I'd be careful here, though, not just to make it a blanket statement, because I think that business travel is not going to come back at 100%. I think that seems pretty clear. But I think the sectors that are levered to leisure.
Interesting point. She's saying that, you know, it's just not going to come back. People are going to use Zoom and it makes more financial sense. It's quicker, it's convenient. They're going to cut out, you know, those kind of smaller meetings which you really didn't need to be in person. They're going to get cut out.
In the U.S., despite the consumer really getting to work in the second quarter. And that will be spent over time. And you can't spend it on 5 trips at the same time. And I think this will be a longer cycle for that kind of spending. And I think this is a great opportunity to use the headline scare to get into some of these names.
The airlines specifically, I asked Steph about it last hour. They're still off about 20% from the recent highs, Alicia.
Yeah, look, I think you have to find the airlines that are really levered towards domestic leisure travel and not those that are dependent on business travel. Most businesses will not send their mid-level employees on trips at the same rate. And I think there will be a change in demand coming out of the pandemic for that kind of travel. But leisure looks completely intact. As you know, if you've traveled anywhere over the last 2 months, every place is crowded. So, but business travel, not so much.
On the topic of travel, Victoria, are you traveling abroad for overseas equities at the moment, or staying focused on the US?
Well, when we look at where the different countries are right now in regards to vaccinations, in regard to reopenings, I mean, we do like looking abroad a little bit as we go forward and looking at some international stocks. We recently put Popular in our portfolio. So obviously it's Puerto Rico mainly, which is still US. But as you start to look at maybe some finance companies abroad, we think that might be an opportunity going forward. We would still be cautious because we know that vaccination levels are not as high in other countries as they are domestically. So if that puts those economies a little bit further behind us in the timeline in regards to reopening, then wait maybe to have a little bit of a pullback in some of those names and go into them. But we're still mostly domestically focused.
We've got Beyond Meat numbers crossing, and Kate Rogers has them for us. Hi, Kate.
Well, a mixed quarter here for Beyond Meat. Wider than expected loss here for Q2. A loss of 31 cents compared to estimates of 20.
There we go. A miss.
A beat here coming in at 149.4 million compared to
A single beat. A slight beat on revenues. And a miss on the earnings per share.
Giving some guidance for Q3 that's a bit weaker than anticipated. Revenues coming in between 120 and 100.
They're going to get smashed, guys. Look at the share prices. They're going to get smashed. It's already down 6% in the aftermarket. Now watch.
At 5, we'll bring you any other headlines we get between now and then. Back over to you.
Like I said to you, not good. We've had double beats where companies are not moving. So this with a miss and weak guidance, it's not looking good.
I think the bloom is off the rose for sure, especially when you...
I exited out of my Beyond Meat a few months ago.
Price to sales, right? The valuation is just not supportive. You've got to beat, you've got to raise, you've got to surprise to the upside for the stock to really go higher. And I think that they're having some trouble on food service, and that's temporary to some degree, right? As we recover, but we're going to have to get a glide path as to how they're going to recover and what the trajectory is going forward in terms of food services. The Dunkin' question is a big question to me. Why did they lose it? Number one. What's going to happen with the relationship overall with Dunkin', and then what are the implications for other restaurants and other relationships? So lot to digest on the 5 o'clock call, and we'll have to listen to hear what they have to say.
Beyond all these earnings, Alicia, we're going to get
It'll be interesting to hear that earnings call, particularly for you invested. Make sure you do jump onto that earnings call, even if you listen to it after in times 2 speed or something. That's what I tend to do.
Even though we did have a disappointing ADP report on the private sector earlier in the week, how is the market likely to...
Right, so there we have it. That's the US closing stream today. I'm going to head off. It's late here in the UK. It's 9:15. So there you have it. A single beat or single miss and a weak guidance for Beyond Meat. So it's not looking good for those guys. Bit of mixed bag with the travel stocks, Expedia and Tripadvisor. Dropbox doing really well. Dropbox has a great business model. Kind of regretting I didn't start building a position sooner in Dropbox. I've always known it's a strong one, just not managed to get it at the right price to start picking it up. But don't go chasing it now. 3% up, pumping. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next one.